Hi everyone, it's Gina K, and I have a quick video for you today. I'm going to show you how to create beautiful metallic flowers with embossing powder and dyes. Let me show you the tools and products that you're going to need to make this card project. First, you're going to need some stamps, and I'm using the Dazzling Dahlia stamp set from the new Sentimental Summer Kit. I'm also going to be using a Versamark pad, some embossing powder, and I'm going to be using an embossing magic pad. I'm also going to use my Misty. I have 2 pieces of black cardstock that I'm going to start out with. I'm going to start by using my embossing magic pad all over the surface of this black cardstock. I'm going to do both pieces at once, and then once I'm done, I'm going to load one of these pieces into my Misty. I'm going to just slip it right into the bottom corner here, and then I'm going to secure it in place using my magnets. Then I'm going to grab the stamp set, and I'm using all the solid flowers and leaves. So I'm going to place them throughout this piece of cardstock, just making sure there's enough room in between the images for me to cut them out using the dies. That's usually not a problem because the dies cut really closely. So as long as there's a little bit of space in between the different leaves and flowers, you'll be fine. So now I'm going to pick up all of those stamps using the lid of the Misty. Just press and pick up. And then I'm going to replace my piece of cardstock into that bottom corner of the Misty and replace the magnets. Now I'm going to grab some of that Versamark ink, and I'm going to begin to ink up these stamps, and I can see one of them had shifted a little bit when I pulled the cardstock off, so I put that back in place, and I'm going to add lots and lots of Versamark ink over the surface of these stamps. Now once I have them very inky, I'm going to press down onto my cardstock, and I'm going to press each image to make sure that all of the Versamark ink transfers onto the piece of cardstock. You want to make sure that there aren't any shallow spots because you don't want shallow spots in your embossing powder. Now once that's done, I'm going to lift the lid, and that looks great, so I'm ready to add some embossing powder to this piece. I've grabbed some of the Gina K Designs Fine Detail Silver Embossing Powder and coated the entire piece with the powder, and you can see all of those images are solidly covered with embossing powder. Now I'm going to use a clothespin, and I'm going to use my heat tool, and I have preheated my heat tool so it's going to work very quickly. I'm going to begin to heat up the different images, and you'll see them turning bright silver very quickly. The reason why I like to preheat the tool, and that's just turning it on for a few seconds to let it get hot. I like to do that because it works very quickly then, and the faster that your embossing powder melts on the cardstock, the less warping you're going to get on your cardstock. So preheating can help. And you can see how pretty and shiny and solid those images are. Now I've removed the flowers from my stamps on the Misty, and I've left the leaves where they were, and I'm going to ink those up with Versamark, and I'm going to stamp them onto the second piece of black cardstock that I placed inside the Misty. And again, making sure that I'm pressing hard enough that all the ink transfers. Now I'm just going to flip that piece over, replace the magnets, and then I'm going to ink up those stamps again using the Versamark and stamp them a second time. Now you can certainly add more leaves to your card project, but I'm going to stop here at 9 leaves. I think 9 will be plenty to create a beautiful bouquet. So now I can see that all of the images stamped well, and I'm going to grab my clothespin and some of this silver embossing powder and sprinkle that all over the remaining leaves. And if you get a little bit somewhere where you don't want it, you can brush it off with your finger or with a small paintbrush. So now it's ready to emboss, and I'm going to grab my heat tool. My heat tool is already heated up, so it is ready to go. And you can see how quickly these leaves are turning to that bright silver color. Sometimes when I can't find my stamping mojo, I will just emboss flowers and leaves and just cut them all out and put them in a drawer for a future card project. So you can do that too with this set and with these flowers and leaves. So these are all ready to go, ready to be cut, and I have my flowers and the other leaves ready as well. So now I'm going to grab my Cuttlebug. Now with these dies, you can use any embossing machine. You can use a Big Shot, you can use a Little Sister, you can use the Gemini, or of course you can use the Cuttlebug. And I am going to cut that largest flower out first. And once that's cut out, you can see how nicely it looks with that black perimeter instead of a white perimeter. Isn't that pretty? So now I'm going to cut out the medium flower. And again, it's so easy to line up these dies because the entire image is inside the die and the blade is very close to the edge. So now I'm going to cut that one out as well. And you can see the beautiful border that leaves behind. Now you've already seen the line art images from my first video with this kit, and you can see that these solid images line up just as beautifully. Now I'm going to cut this flower out, and I just love the way the die swoops up into those petals. It makes it real easy to peek those petals over the leaves and over other flowers. Now once I have all of my flowers and leaves cut, I'm going to take this small piece of black cardstock and I'm going to emboss my image on it. So again, I'm using the embossing magic pad to remove static. And you can see how small this piece is, so I'm definitely going to need my clothespin for this. I'm going to grab some of the Versamark ink and I'm going to stamp that right onto that piece of cardstock. Now if you feel unsure about lining this up, you certainly can use the MISTI for this. But it's pretty easy to see, and if you have your MISTI loaded up with the flowers, you can just go ahead and use an acrylic block quickly to stamp the greeting. Now I'm going to add a little bit of embossing powder, but I already got the clothespin on there because it's such a small little piece. And I'm going to sprinkle that silver embossing powder all over the surface of that greeting. Now I'm going to put the powder back, and I'll show you how I do that. I use my cardstock and I just have it folded, pour it right back in, and then stick the lid back on. Now I'm going to emboss that using the heat tool, and that heat tool is still pretty hot because I've used it for so many flowers and leaves. And you can see it's quickly coming up to a bright silver. So that's pretty fast. And the cardstock barely warped at all, which is nice because I'm not layering this one on anything else. Now it's time to assemble the card, and I am using some of the pattern paper from the new Petite Patterns 6x6 pattern paper pack. This paper pack comes inside the Sentimental Summer Stamp TV kit, and it's also available to purchase by itself, so if you love these patterns, you can always get more. The cool thing about this pattern paper pack is you can also foil these designs, and all of the colors in the new kit are also available in exclusive Gina K Designs fancy foil colors, at least the bright ones, the sweet mango, the wild dandelion, the passionate pink, the turquoise sea, and the jelly bean green. So I'm going to layer these pieces onto some black onyx cardstock, and then I love using this dot style adhesive because if you don't think you've put your pattern paper on straight, you can even pick up something as thin as pattern paper and reposition it without tearing it. Now I'm just going to do a quick layout here to see if I like it, and I think this is the layout that I'm going to go with. And now it's time to adhere these onto my card base. For my card base, I've cut a piece of Gina K Designs heavy base weight white cardstock to 4 1/4 inches by 11 inches. You don't have to remember any of the measurements because all of the measurements will be under the screen at stamptv.com under the video and also on YouTube in the description. If you haven't seen that, the description is something that you can click on and it opens up and there is all kinds of information in there, including the measurements for my cards, the different supplies that are used, and also if there are any links to products that aren't available at Gina K Designs, I usually add them there. So now I'm going to add this little greeting. And I'm kind of playing around with it here, deciding where I want to add it, and I've changed my mind at the last minute and I'm going to put it right in the center here of this Swiss dot pattern. I kind of like the way that looks. I also, in my other card sample, moved it over a little bit, moved the greeting over, and so you can take a look at that in the other card sample that I'm going to show you at the end of the video. So now I'm just laying the flowers out the way I want them, and it's time to adhere the flowers to the card project. I'm going to use some of these 1/4-inch foam squares, and I'm going to put about 3 on the big flower and the medium flower. 3 will hold it down nicely, but it will also leave room underneath for me to slide in some of those different leaves and leaf combinations. So again, for the middle one, I'm going to add 3 more of the 1/4-inch foam squares. Now, the foam squares also come in the 1/2-inch size, so you can use either the 1/2-inch or the 1/4-inch. If you use the 1/2-inch, you might only need 1 for that medium flower. And then for this last flower, I'm just going to use 1 because it's a smaller flower and I still need room underneath there for my leaves to slip under. So now that I have my flowers laid out, it's time for me to add my leaves, and I'm going to do that using this little mini tape runner by Thermoweb. This is a sticky dot runner, and I am going to do different groupings of these smaller leaves. And I like the way they look next to each other, but I also like the way they look when they're overlapped a bit, and that's what I'm going to do with these. So I'm going to pick these up, and then I'm going to overlap the one on the right just a little bit with the one on the left. And that's a cute look too. And I'm going to add that one to that flower. Now for the next leaf, I'm going to use one of these 3 sprig leaves, and I'm going to put that up top with the smallest flower because that area can use a little bit more, so a leaf will look great up there. And then I'm going to mix 2 more of these together. I'm going to add a little bit more of that sticky dot runner, and then I'm going to adhere those together once again. Now you can see on this one, I actually adhere the one on the left on top of the one on the right, and that just makes that leaf combination look different than the other one. So that's kind of why I wanted to do 3 different leaf options, so that you can mix and match them and overlap them in different ways and create different looking leaves so all of the leaves aren't exactly the same. And this last one's going to go right at the top underneath that smallest flower. So here's my finished card project. Now I want to show you another project that I made. So I'm going to lay them side by side, and here's the silver one again. You can see how pretty that looks. I really do like the silver, but I also wanted to try it in gold. And I used the Hello Friend on this one, and I did it in gold. And I really like the way this one looks too. I'd love to know which one you like the best. So there are my finished card projects. I hope you've enjoyed today's Stamp TV video, and I hope that you'll try this technique. Stay tuned to Stamp TV for more projects featuring the brand new Sentimental Summer Stamp TV kit. This kit's available at GinaKDesigns.com. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.